Welcome to Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. I'm Susie Vance. And today, on behalf of the Rotary Club in Michigan City, I am interviewing two people who had polio back in the day and who are still experiencing the results of their illnesses. So, my first person who I'm interviewing is Pastor Dennis Carroll. My second interview is Scott Howat. These two gentlemen, I understand from a friend of mine, have been getting in lots of trouble lately because they've been meeting and telling old stories about what it was like back in the day. How does it feel, actually, to have discovered a friend who has had a lot of the same experiences? How about you, Dennis? How does it feel?
I feel since I met Scott. To be honest with you, in person, I haven't met any of my other uh, uh, polio survivors who I knew. Some of them I think are still maybe still with us, and others are not. And
But this is the first guy you met in the flesh?
Yes, and so I'm very blessed to be with Scott and knowing his story of polio and what he went through, and
It's not unlike yours.
it's very similar.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, and it's been a joy to meet
Very
him,
much.
and I thank Jim for Jim Scott for bringing us together, because there's times when you think you're the only one that people know about polio, but you don't really meet a lot of people.
Right.
And you sometimes you think, well, you're the only one here. There's got to be somebody else that I can meet. And
Well, I'm so glad you met. So how has it been for you, Scott,
Meeting Dennis?
meeting Dennis?
Well, it's been nice meeting Dennis. I don't know about Jim, who brought us together. But no, it's been very blessed. I found a lot of new friends, and I hear stories from Dennis, and many of the stories that he tells are similar to the ones that I have. And if I could talk about one real quick.
Yes, that would be great.
So last, I can't remember. It's been about a month since we met Dennis, but last Friday when Jim and Dennis came over to the house, Dennis was telling me the story of one time when he was in the hospital and he had a surgery on his leg. And he just had this surgery. He was looking out the window and he saw these kids climbing a tree. And he thought, whoa, I can do that. So he gets up out of the hospital bed and he goes to the tree and he climbs up the tree. And I guess his sutures broke open. I don't guess. That's what he said. And so anyway, but he wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And he had it in his mind that he could do it.
And
he did it. How about that?
How about
At the
that?
same time.
Yeah.
So he did it. So I was telling the story of Jim yesterday when, and you didn't hear this story, but I met Jim at the Red Cup Cafe yesterday, and I said, I have the same similar story. Our friends, young kids, we were young kids. I was 12, 13, I don't know, and tree houses. They always build tree houses, and so we had they had a tree house in their yard, and all the kids were climbing up the tree house and everything, but I wasn't. And so then I said, I'm going to climb up that tree house.
You're going to climb up that tree house?
Yeah, so I did. But it was stairs, but I had to go real slow walking.
But you did it.
I did it. And similar to what happened to Dennis, I think the fire department came to get you down or something like that?
Yeah, the fire department had to come get me down, and the nurses were yelling and saying, "Dennis, get down from that tree." I said, I don't know how I got up here, and I don't know how to get down.
You're just like a cat.
Yeah.
So I got up, similar like Dennis. I got up and I looked down. It seemed like a mile down. I said, "How am I going to get down?" I was the only one up. So anyway, my friend's father had to come. He had to walk up the stairs and bring me back down. So that was a similar story that we had. I could keep on talking if you want.
Well, I know. And some of those stories, like meeting the challenge and doing things like you did, is enormous to make you feel good and to make you feel like you can do things. But I gather there were also some times that weren't so pretty or weren't so encouraging. How do you deal with those? How did you, when you were a kid and somebody dissed you, I'll
So
say it loosely.
very loosely. So, do you want me to go first?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
And
So
then Dennis will share.
so so I had a very wonderful support group. My mother, my father, my brother, and my mother uh, referred to me as EO. EO meant eternal optimist. I was always optimistic about everything. If it's raining outside, if it's cloudy, it's going to get sunny. And if somebody is going to say, which happened to me in high school, I remember this pretty vividly, that someone said, "Oh, he walks like an elephant." But I thought about that, and I thought, you know what? It's not about me. It's about him. I, you know, that's their problem. I'll do what I can do, the best that I can do, and I'm happy with myself. So, I have to say that, well, I had polio when I was 2, so I was really young, and I had operations when I was 2, when I was 5, and 4 more major operations. And so this support group, mainly my mother, uh,
Mothers are
taught me all. Oh
amazingly
yeah,
supportive.
oh yeah, and
They'll get you through anything.
oh yeah, yeah. So did fathers. So did
Yes.
yeah. And my father was really strong. He would. I was reading an article the other day. I won't get into that, but um, he was really strong, and he would say, "You can do it. You can do it."
Mhm.
And it was someone that wrote an article about the Tribune, and it was about his friend that lived on a farm, and his name was Harold Blake, and Dr. Harold Blake, and he his father made a crutch for him, and he had to do the chores around the farm. He had to bring the cows in and whatnot. He had to walk a mile and a half, and his leg had withered away, and he walked in this crutch, but he had to go out and do it. And I guess the last part of the story was that his friend asked, "Well, didn't you resent your father for that?" He said, "No." He said, "If I wasn't taught to do that, where would I be now? Maybe I'd be an invalid."
Right.
And
Exactly.
so
That's your experience too.
Yes, my experience,
Your mother was a great supporter,
my mother was a great support for me.
and your father.
And my father. And my mother, when I was in the hospital, and of course I've got a few years on you.
not many.
Well, I had polio when I was not quite 8 years old.
I was just going to say.
And so I remember my polio days very well, getting in the ambulance, my mother holding my hand crying as they were taking me. And but when I was in the hospital, of course, my mother was a great support. I'd always hear the clicker of her shoes, her high heel shoes. And I'd say, "Oh, Mama's coming, Mama's coming." And that did alone give me inspiration. But my experience was quite different than than Scott's because he was optimistic. I was a very angry little boy, and because I couldn't do a lot of things that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to go in. When I got to be about 10 years old, 3 years later, then I had surgery on four on one leg and four on another, and then I most of my school days were at home. I was schooled at home, and then when I got into high school, I was made fun of. I was put down. I was beat up. So mine was different. I was not optimistic. I was angry, and let me share something with you.
Yes, please do.
When I got so angry because I got beat up so many times, the kids would pick on me. They would call me Hopalong Cassidy. They would call me all kinds of names. They'd start limping like me in the school, and my books were going all over because I couldn't carry them. Back in those days, we didn't have a one-level school.
Yeah.
We had to go straight up the steps, and I could never make it up and down those steps. And so as I was getting beat up, the more angrier I was getting. So there was a club in the high school. We used to have what's called it was called a jacket club. I don't know if you remember that back
No.
then. Yeah, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to show them I'm going to be somebody. But I was only actually about 13 years old, and I wasn't supposed to do it. But I thought in order for me to fight this, then I've got to look like I'm stronger than they are.
Okay.
So I went almost 70 years ago, and I said, I'm getting a tattoo. And so I went and I got a tattoo. Because back then they didn't mess with you if you had a tattoo.
And did they stop messing with you?
Actually not. But my mama did. But my mama and daddy said, why did you do that?
I don't think you got the right tattoo.
I think I
Did you tell them?
Yes,
And what did they say?
understood. They understood. Yes, and they said we understood. And when I was in high school, then I was a sophomore. I was so angry because I had a girlfriend, and she was waiting for me on the bottom of the step, and I fell, and all my books went. And she came over and she said, "Dennis, I said, get away from me. Just get away from me. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to nobody." Anyway,
Is that because you were embarrassed?
I was humiliated.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed. I called her back the next day. I said, "I'm so sorry I treated you that way. I didn't mean to treat you that way." But I was just so, my girlfriend is watching me lay on the floor. That wasn't too manly.
That's true.
And so.
But here you are today,
Here I am today.
both of you,
Yes.
definitely strong-willed men who survived an amazing, amazing challenge.
Yes, and I'm very, very blessed to have met Scott. He's a smart man.
So
Thank
what's the best thing about having is this the first time you met someone else who is sort of having your current experiences
It's
as
my
a
very-
result of that?
Yeah, it's my very first time.
Uh-huh.
It's my very, very first time. I've corresponded through the internet or something with a couple other people, but
But you've never had a friendship in person?
never had a friendship in person with another polio survivor. No.
Well-
You're the first. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm honored.
Thank
So-
you.
You found each other.
Yeah.
This is a good
Yes.
thing.
Yes. Well, we found each other through Jim, who brought us together, and we thank God for Jim for doing so, bringing us together. Wonderful, and I'm looking for a wonderful friendship.
Can I,
Scott?
I just want to say how
Yeah.
we were brought together.
Good. Tell me.
So, I saw Jim riding his bike at the Red Cup. I like to play at this place in Chesterton, but so I'm playing my music out there, and I'm singing as loud as I can, and I'm okay with that. You know what?
Uh-huh.
I think I'm getting better at it, but
You're getting pretty good,
well, I
I
don't
have
know.
to say.
You think?
Uh-huh.
But Jim says I dish it out a lot. But anyway, but so Jim comes along, and I never met him before, and he says to me, he says, "You're having too much fun," and chuckles.
Right.
And he's got a sense of humor like I do, I think. And so anyway, I go home that night. I think, what does that mean? Having too much fun? Oh, I got to write a song about that. So I wrote a song about it, hoping that I'd see Jim the next time. And so he comes riding, I think, with Rich that day. And I said, I didn't know his name. I said, oh, hey. I didn't say, hey, you, but hey, you. Um, I wrote a song for you. And he comes over to the table, what? And so anyway, I wrote this song. He said, oh, you have to send it to me. I want to send it to my grandkids and everything. So I did that. And then we start talking. I tell him about myself having polio when I was 2, and he goes, really? And then he tells me about Dennis, and
Uh-huh.
then we get together at a luncheon, and
The rest is history.
well, and, and what's been really nice for me, many things about this is that um, it's given me inspiration to write different kinds of music. And for instance, Jim sent me an article about Dennis when he was in the hospital and when he was in his iron lung. And so the inspiration I got from that was to write 2 songs about that. And when we had our luncheon, uh, I wanted to get those songs written out so I could give Dennis a copy of each
Uh-huh.
of them, and played them there for us all. And then when Rich was there as well, we had our luncheon and wrote this one song. This is my passion, Susie. I love to write music. I love to play music. I love to capture the moment and try and put it in poetry in my own words.
Mhm.
And so I wrote something about our luncheon too. It's called When Angels Soar. And so anyway, that's how we all got to meet. And then we meet last Friday, and got to write another song about that. So, and um, and that was called "They Gathered at His Table" because we gathered at my table, and we dined at his table, or whatever the song is. But anyway, that's how we all met, and I think there's been 7 songs written from
So,
that.
do you have any advice for people who, here you are, this is years and
Yeah.
years and years later after the polio epidemic? Is it important to find somebody else who's had your experience? And is it important to, in some way or other, I mean, you've done it through your songs, is it important to let other people know about your experience?
Yes and yes. It's important to uh, find someone else that has had the same experience, and it's important to um, perhaps tell our story. Perhaps, me, I'm very optimistic. Um, uh, I honor uh, everyone I meet. As I told Jim, we don't know how others are because we're not in their shoes. So it's great to listen, to be a listener, and to try and um, understand what others are going through. And so when we talk about, like Dennis and I have talked about, when maybe um, folks were making fun of us, their kids or whatever. Did they really put themselves in our shoes? No. Was that our problem? No, that wasn't our problem. But you know what? There's a saying, and we all know the saying, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
And by golly, it's made me stronger.
Right?
That's right, exactly. But I
Exactly.
couldn't have said it any better. That's it's a wonderful thing to. Really, it's a joy in our stage of life uh, to meet somebody that has went through the same thing that you went through, and you're optimistic, and so I'm getting some of that optimism well over on me because. Uh, I'm not that optimistic. I've always been a person who, um, and I wish I was like you. I wish I was. I wish I was, you know,
Well, if you stick around me, I'm going to poison you with it.
yeah, well, it's rubbing off. It is rubbing off. And between you and Jim, and I'm getting a lot better.
Good.
Isn't it fun?
Well, I haven't got to the fun one. It's not as fun as you, but it's getting a lot better. Yes.
Good.
And
That's great.
it's very encouraging to meet somebody after all these years um, uh, that went through the same thing that you did. And
What a gift.
It is a
it's
gift.
really a blessing.
It is a
It's
gift.
it's a blessing.
It is a gift. And the fact that you two can share those experiences with each other and that you can then be here and now in the present and share those stories with others. I mean, polio is horrendous. There are a lot of other horrendous things in the world too, number of which are going on right at the moment. And there's a sense I get from both of you about perseverance, about not letting down your guard. You're just going to keep doing it.
Yes.
One thing to throw in, since you said perseverance.
Mm.
So when I was a junior in high school, I got this award for perseverance.
Really?
I did. And imagine that, huh, Jim? But
I'm interested in the perceptions of whoever put that award together. That's fabulous. We need more of that.
my brother, we talk a lot, and he lives in Kansas, but a lot. We talk every week. But I said, like I was telling you at the table, oh, now I have to write this story about myself. And he said, well, I can share some things with you. Please do. So he sent me these bullet points
Right.
about different things. And my mother kept a great scrapbook of all of us and pulled a lot of things out. That's been a gift, too, that I had that opportunity to do that. But polio in itself has been a gift, too, because I think it taught me a lot of things. It taught me to be honorable, respectful, and just to make life the way you want to make it. You can
With whatever you have.
That's right, and make the best of whatever you can do with whatever you can do. So I'm going to make my music the best.
And remember that you don't know where the other person's coming from.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, a lot of the anger, I'm sure, that you both felt when you were beaten up or chastised or made fun of or whatever, you don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily wasn't something that you created.
But as I grew older into my late teens, early 20s, 30s, that anger that I did have and everything, more love was penetrating. I was feeling more love, that I love more people. The people that I really didn't like at the time, I grew to love them because, like Scott said, it taught me so much that I would have never learned without polio. It taught me so much,
Mhm.
and I'm so grateful. I'm not happy that I got it, but I'm grateful that it taught me and to be hopefully the man that God wants me to be, and that's why I'm here.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for sharing.
Thank you.
What a gift you both are to the world. And thank you, and we hope Rotary will learn a little something from this.
But it's been great. I enjoyed this, and this is a great opportunity. It's actually an opportunity of a lifetime. It's an opportunity of a lifetime to meet different people that I've been able to meet through this whole process. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much for joining us. I'm Susie Vance from Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. If you know someone who has a story to tell, we all have stories. Check in with me. See you next time.